Hello again, everybody. In today's video, I'm going to be going into depth about my personal PC that I built last year for streaming, video editing, and gaming. And after I go over the parts that I used for my own personal computer, I'm going to talk about some parts that I got recently to do a upgrade on my personal computer, and also a case swap from an ATX case to a micro ATX case. So let's go into the parts that I used for this computer. And all these parts were purchased in June of 2024. And I'll talk about some of the great prices that I got for these parts back in June of 2024, and just how much of a difference it is now to build a PC at the same level of performance. For this PC, I went with a Ryzen 7 7800X3D, and when I purchased this CPU back in June of 2024, it was only $339. For the CPU cooler, I went with a Corsair iCUE H100X RGB Elite. This CPU cooler is decent, and it cost me $100. For the motherboard, I went with an MSI Pro B650-S Wi-Fi. This ATX motherboard is very good quality, and I usually prefer to go with MSI motherboards because I just like the features that they come with. For a B650 motherboard, this is a very decent board, and when I purchased this board, it was roughly $129 back in June of 2024, so it hasn't gone that much up in price. For the memory, I went with a Team Group T-Create Expert 32GB kit, clocked at 6000 MHz with a cast latency of 30. This RAM is roughly the same price as I purchased it back in June 2024, roughly $90. For the SSDs that I put in this computer, for my operating system, I went with a Team Group Ardea A440 1TB M.2. I purchased this SSD for $89 back in June of 2024, and for my backup storage SSD, I went with the Acer Predator GM 7000 2TB M.2, and when I purchased this SSD back in June of 2024, it was $125. For the power supply on my personal build, I went with the Montech Century 850 watt 80 plus gold power supply. This power supply was fully modular, and it served me pretty well in the 6 months that I had it. Now for the most important part of this gaming PC, the video card I ultimately ended up choosing for this PC, GeForce RTX 4070 Ti Super. When I purchased this card back in June of 2024, I could have never realized how much of a deal I got for this GPU. I purchased the PNY Verito Overclock edition of the RTX 4070 Ti Super 16GB, and when I purchased this card back in June of 2024, it was only $769. After tax in California though, it came out to $824. Immediately after I bought this card back in June of 2024, it actually went out of stock and disappeared from Amazon. So I got very lucky with this graphics card, and I'm very happy that I purchased it. I had actually contemplated waiting until Black Friday or the holidays to purchase the parts for this PC, and I'm very thankful that I did not wait, because I actually got way better prices on a lot of these parts compared to purchasing everything during the holiday season and Black Friday, seeing as how stock for a lot of these parts ended up disappearing, and the prices were just terrible even for the holidays. So I actually got a better deal purchasing these parts in June compared to purchasing them in November or December. Now for the case for my PC, I went with a pretty basic ATX case. It was the Superflower Zillion M705. This mid-tower ATX case served me well, and it had great airflow and was pretty easy to build in for the most part. And that concludes the part lists for my personal computer when I first built it back in June of 2024. Now let's talk about some of the PC parts that I bought recently to do an upgrade as well as a case swap to a micro ATX case. I wanted to go with a micro ATX form factor for my personal PC because my mid-tower ATX case was just taking up too much space, and the more I've been building micro ATX builds for my PC flipping, I've started to notice how aesthetically pleasing they are, and also just how much more easy it is to transport the computer. But let me quit talking your ear off and let's go into the parts that I bought recently to upgrade my PC as well as switch it over to the micro ATX case. The first part that I purchased was the Gigabyte B650M Aurora Elite AX Ice micro ATX motherboard. I went with this micro ATX motherboard because it had all the features that I wanted, and also it had the aesthetic that I was going for. The second part that I purchased was the Thermalright Aqua Elite V3 liquid CPU cooler. I went with this CPU cooler because I wanted to upgrade from a 240mm AIO to a 360mm AIO. And also I like the white aesthetic that this cooler has while having a really great price. The third part that I purchased was the ADATA XPG Core Reactor 2 1000-watt power supply. I wanted to upgrade from an 850-watt power supply to 1000 watts to future-proof my build, and this PSU is rated A+ on SPL's PSU tier list, and it only costs $129. So if you're in the market for a 1000-watt power supply, this is your best bet. Now, the PC case that I ended up choosing was the Zalman P30 Micro ATX case. And the reason why I chose this case was not only the aesthetic that it had, but it also came with some good features like a USB-C as well as 2 reverse blade fans with a total of 3 fans altogether. And there wasn't a lot of choices for Micro ATX cases that were white that I could find that could fit the 360mm AIO. But this fish tank style case was a great purchase and is even cheaper now than when I purchased it. Lastly, I purchased some easy DIY fab PSU cable extensions. These are my go-to cable extensions because the quality is really good, and I like the cable combs for these cable extensions as well. They usually cost roughly $20, but sometimes they go on sale for $15. And I also got a 3-pack of Dark Rock Infinity Mirror fans that are PWM and ARGB. This 3-pack of Infinity Mirror fans is actually a really good value for roughly $15. Every other 3-pack of Infinity Mirror fans that I could find were roughly $20 or more. Now let's go into a quick montage of me building this PC and let you guys see the end result. So I feel like the build came out really good. The only thing I would have changed is if I had a white graphics card, that would have been a lot better, but I wasn't willing to take apart my graphics card and paint the fan shroud to make it white, especially since I spent over $800 on this graphics card. I didn't want to take that risk. Another thing I would have changed as well is using a cable extension for the 12-volt high power, but I noticed the safest bet for me has been using the NVIDIA 12-volt high power adapter. So I decided to continue to use the adapter even though it doesn't look that good. And that's going to be the end of this video. I know it was really short and I know I didn't go into any benchmarks of this computer, but if you go on YouTube, you can find lots of videos showcasing the performance of this GPU and CPU combo. And in my next video, I'm going to use all the leftover parts from my old PC to use for a flip, and that's going to be my first AM5 build that I'm going to flip. So stay tuned for that video, and if you like these videos, just leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Until next time, this is Fish, and try not to get blown up.